In this week's podcast, we talk with Eric Lang, game designer of Blood Rage and the extraordinary Toulouse Death Medaille.
The beat of the drums echoes in the pulse beat of the young braves.
Salut les joueuses, salut les joueurs, je suis Paul Gara, on se retrouve à Cannes pour une nouvelle interview qui sera en anglais parce que je suis en compagnie de Eric Lang. Salut Eric, hello Eric.
Salut, bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va très bien, et toi?
Je suis très fatigué, mais hungry.
You haven't eaten...
Oh non, j'ai beaucoup de manger, mais je suis toujours faim.
Okay.
J'ai toujours faim.
Tu as toujours faim, ok.
Oui.
It's a great pleasure to talk with you.
My pleasure, yeah.
I'm going to do some disclaimer because Toulouse Death Medaille is my top 3 board games, so I am very, very happy to meet you.
Oh, good. Well, I'm happy to meet you too. I'm happy to be on this podcast.
Okay, great. Thank you. We are going to talk about board games that were influenced for you as a player and also as a board game designer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay, we're going to talk about how you discover the board games.
Mm-hmm.
I've read that you play with your grandma.
Yep, as a small kid.
As a small kid, board games were already here when you were a child.
Yes, since I was 6 years old. So when I played with my grandmother, so I used to visit my grandmother in Germany every summer in a very small city called Neuss, and there's nothing to do. So she would have like some old games like Mensch ärgere dich nicht, which is like Parcheesi. There's like Phase 10, Uno,
Okay.
Chinese checkers, I remember. Very, very, very mass market games. And I didn't enjoy them very much, but I enjoyed spending time with my grandmother. So already, even when I was young, I was like, I wanted to change them a little bit to make them shorter and to make them more fun for me.
You have already the idea of crafting your own board games.
That's right, but out of necessity because I wanted because also as a child. So as an adult, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I didn't know that. I've always had it. So as a kid, I was hyper and I couldn't hold attention. And if it was boring to me, I could not enjoy it.
Okay.
So I had to make things enjoyable for myself. And my grandmother was very old. So I wanted to connect easily.
Yes. I have also read that when you discovered the Dungeons and Dragons, then you said, "Oh, I want to be a board game designer." And
Almost.
Okay.
So that Dungeons and Dragons made me a gamer, air quotes. So that changed my life, and it introduced me to the hobby, and it made me want to. I did design many games, but I didn't necessarily think to do it professionally. It was Magic: The Gathering that made me go, "Oh, now I want to do this as a job."
we're going to talk about Magic.
Absolument,
the Gathering. You said you have no other real job, and it was the only profession that you indicated for you, board game designer, or?
Yeah, yes. So I worked in retail for a very long time, and including game retail. So I worked for a Nintendo store selling Nintendo games. I worked for board game stores running Pokemon and Magic tournaments, which I consider actually to be education for this job. So even though, yes, that wasn't quite a designer, the only career that I ever had was as a board game designer. That's
Okay.
right.
You were an internal board game developer and designer for Culmini or Not.
That's right.
During 3 years, which is, it's not so often that happens. Most of the time people are on their own, they are freelance. And
That's right.
Yes. And now you're not.
I'm back to freelance.
Yes,
That's right.
back to freelance. And so, what is
What's the main difference?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, sure. So this is a complicated answer because I've been freelance I've been independent I've been a game designer for about 26, 27 years. And most of that time I was independent. However, I personally, at my heart, I'd like to be a collaborator. So I like to work very, very closely with every publisher. And I like to be involved in all aspects of game, to graphics, to production, to every part. So even when I'm independent, I work almost like an employee with every publisher. So it didn't feel that different.
Okay, you don't think that your job is over when you have released the game is over and you gave them? You
Never.
Want to be involved in all the process of production?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, because so to me, board games have always been it's not just the mechanics; it is the product. It's the whole thing. And I think to me, every part of the game must be intentional. And the more, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not an artist, but I do have ideas and I have a vision generally. So when I think about a game, very often I can see a product on the shelf. What does that look like? What does it feel like to open? What are the pieces like? What are the colors like? What is the appeal like? I do already have ideas for that. They're not always final, and I do like to collaborate, but I always come to the table with something.
For you, board games are not just an abstraction idea of mechanics, but it's also the product. And
absolutely, yes.
We're going to talk about the 5 board games you gave in your list.
So this list, I gave you that list, and of course, I have to say, this list changes all the time.
Yes.
But these are the ones I did from the top of my head.
Okay.
And I think they're all very solid answers. But if you ask me next year, I might have different ones.
So the first was Stratego. It's a board game from 1946. It's before we call modern board games.
Absolutely, yep.
How you discovered?
So that was the game. I discovered it during my youth with my grandmother. So it was the first game that I played. And I believe I was maybe 8, 9 years old. So I'd already done several years of playing like games that I didn't like, that I always had to change. And when I saw Stratego, it was the first game I played that was like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I didn't think, I don't have to change anything. But like, it introduced me to the idea of like a hidden movement. And of course, I'm 8 years old. So I don't think, hidden movement, secret deployment. I'm like, wow, it just blew my mind. And it created that moment to me that I call a veil-piercing moment. You can see beyond the veil and go like, like this thing is transformative. It informs me that games are much bigger than I understand them to be. I say that as an adult. As a kid, I was just like, whoa. And so, of course, I thought of them like, what if these were monsters? But it was, and I played it, and it also introduced psychology, like meaningful psychology and bluffing into a game. And
psychological confrontation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I played it, the very first time I played it, it's all I could think about. I dreamed about it. I made my own versions, which were terrible, but all I wanted to do was play that. Nothing but.
There are also in some of your board games, we have this, we can find this hidden information, and the fact that you don't really know what your opponents are going to do.
Yeah, that's essential to me. I love. Yes. It's very hard for me to enjoy a game without hidden information. And sometimes that's luck. That's okay. It doesn't have to be bluffing, but I generally don't enjoy games like chess or backgammon that have
what we call abstract board games, but because, in abstract board games, there is no hidden information. We can control everything.
Well, for example, so I love games like Quirkle or Ingenious because there's luck in it. There's hidden information, right? So even though they're abstract, you can't see everything. So you have to, they're dynamic. You still have to change.
And do you think, because I think Bruno Feduti likes board games where there is some, something that you cannot control and you have to guess or you have to think about it. He said that it's also a way to give the chance to everybody to win because there are not so much control.
That's right. As a designer, I appreciate that. As a player, it's a little different. So I do think about games a little bit differently, right? As a designer and as a player. But for luck, it's the feeling of surrender.
Yes.
Right? And it's that very exact moment when you're like, where you go like, oh, okay. Like output randomness where you make a decision and then the fates decide.
Yes.
It's different from input randomness, which input is my favorite, where like something happens and then, okay. Like
you see all the possibilities.
I've been dealt the cards, and now I have to do something with it, right? And especially if that changes turn to turn. So, like for games like poker, which is ultimately my favorite game.
Okay.
But it's a story. It's a story that you have to adapt on the fly, and it forces improvisation. It forces you to rise to that moment.
And what of your board games you think is the most inspired of Stratego for this aspect of hidden information? Maybe
none, actually.
None?
So I almost never derive inspiration directly from a board game. But what happens is So I'm a musician before I'm a game designer.
And you said that it was the same thing to be a musician and to be a board game designer. And when you work with as a board game designer, it was like working with other musicians.
Yep. Yes, exactly right. And so the way I think about music, and I think about board games very similar to music. And so to me, it's very important not to draw any direct inspiration. Like I absorb, and then I put it into my subconscious. And so one of my favorite quotes ever was actually Scott Ian from Anthrax in the 80s. He said it so perfectly when they said, how do you describe your style? And he said, it's my record collection filtered through my guitar. And that's so, and it's important that it's the entire collection.
Yes.
And plus my favorite thing, the reason I think I have a job rather than just copying other things, is that my job is to find, I can use my background, but it's the inventing of here's a problem. I have to invent a solution. I can't go back and find another solution. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the job to me.
Okay.
So yes, I can take pieces from other games, but really the invention is, here's a new context.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Yes. Yes, I understand. You mean you create a new thing by absorbing all the other influence
right.
in a way.
So that's just the machinery.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I know how I basically know how mechanics work, but I'm never want to make, if I play a game and enjoy it, I never want to make a game like that.
Okay.
That to me it's a relief. I don't have to make that game.
Yes, I understand. I think Vladash Vasil says something similar. He says he creates board games that do not exist, in fact.
Right. I don't do that consciously.
Yes.
But I know when I'm working on something, if I'm working on an idea and I'm like, ooh, this takes me somewhere that's scary or unrecognizable, then I get excited. Yes.
In Stratego, there are direct confrontations, of course. And it's something we can find in lots of your board games.
Yes.
For example, in Chaos in the Old World, or
Blood Rage, or
Blood Rage,
absolutely.
And in Rising Sun there is a very, very high
diplomacy.
And psychological tension you have.
Yes, it's very, very much over the table. It's a lot of negotiation and a lot of diplomacy. Absolutely, yes.
You can bluff. It's also other kind of confrontation. It's just not just we are going to take majority or something. It's more psychological, and it's something that you are very interested in. This emotional aspects.
Very much. It's the only thing I'm interested in fact. I think so. I very strongly believe that we make our, we peoples, humans, we make our decisions based on our feelings, and we rationalize them with our intellect. So to me, the worst thing, the worst thing to hear if somebody plays my game is just, oh, that's interesting, or oh, that's clever. That's fine, but that's disappointing to me. I want to hear I want to hear your emotion. I want to hear how it made you feel. And I want you to be inspired or angered, or I want games that have a very profound effect on you. And the cleverness, it should be there. I do make clever games, but the cleverness is machinery.
Okay.
Right? It's not the reason for being.
It's just a personal story, but when I just played Rising Sun once, and I remember that at the end of the game, I said, it was too much for me, like a social interaction.
Too intense, right?
Yeah. Too intense. It was very difficult. I was exhausted, and and I got understand exactly what you say. When you want to talk about feelings and emotions, we can feel thanks to board games.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to me, so I like that response better than. That was pleasant. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I'm actually okay. I have no problem if people play my games and go, no, but even if it's a strong feeling, that's okay. Yeah. That's absolutely okay.
It was not a negative thing about the board games. It was just, okay, for me it's too much.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
The second one you mentioned is Yahtzee?
Yahtzee, yes.
Yes.
So Yahtzee, it's a blend of machinery and emotion, right? So with Yahtzee, I enjoy the machinery so much, and I play Yahtzee by itself still today, and I use Yahtzee as machinery, as the core, even in games that don't have dice. I think about that very much.
About combos of the
So basically, what so it's surrender, plus control at the same time.
Yes.
So you have that moment of adrenaline. All right, I'm going to see what I can do. Right. So you get input randomness and then also output randomness at the same time. I'm going to make a roll, see what I got. Now I have to make a decision and I have to take a risk.
Yes.
Right. And because what I like about Yahtzee is the same thing that a lot of designers don't like about Yahtzee. I like that it's limited. Like the possibility space is not huge. I like that. So that makes it very democratic. Many players can enjoy it. And they can feel very smart when they make a correct decision. I very much enjoy that. I think a lot of hobby games are too smart. Like they're too opaque. You don't there's too much possibility space. So I love Yahtzee I love that's contained.
Okay.
And so I've done games that are Yahtzee plus, but I try not to do too much. So I always come back to Yahtzee.
In a way, it's before, but it's quite perfect. The perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. A game that I did not put on my list was King of Tokyo, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Yahtzee plus.
Yes.
It wasn't influential to me, but it's my favorite because it's one of the few games that takes the emotion of Yahtzee, keeps it, and the complexity just makes it a little broader, not more strategic. Does that make sense? So I just feel when I play King of Tokyo, I get just a better feeling from Yahtzee. And I hate to use this analogy, but it's like if I'm listening to a rock song, right, like a Led Zeppelin song, and I listen to a heavy metal song that's like the same notes, the same chords, but a little bit longer and a little bit more intense. I'm like, when I feel like, oh, I want the Zeppelin song, but more, but just heightened, I'll go listen to the metal version. But I'll still go back and listen to the Zeppelin version to play to everybody.
You have a specific pleasure with the dice as an object.
Absolutely, yes. Dice, not cards. Two reasons, right? Because the dice are fully quantum. Like with cards, you can always count. So there's something, right? And I don't mind that, but I love the idea that it's complete surrender, and I love the storytelling, right? Just the idea of Yahtzee, like all dice of the same number. It's a story. When it happens, you remember it, right? And it's just 5 dice, piece of paper.
Tu as plus de souvenirs en fait avec.
Absolument, and the context is always different depending on who you play with.
Je pensais là en le disant, est-ce que c'est quelque chose que tu aimes qu'il y ait comme si c'était une forme de pièce de théâtre où il y a un peu de drama dans les parties?
Absolutely, yes.
We are going to talk about the next.
Sure.
It's Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
So Magic the Gathering is board games that other board game designer mention as very important in their life. Maybe it's one of the most influential board game of a game.
Period.
Yes, maybe with Dungeons and Dragons that really changed the world. In fact,
yes. I agree. Yes.
You discovered it in teenagers or young adult?
I was late teenager because I discovered it when it came out. So I was part of the original in 1993 when it was new. Magic it's a cultural artifact, right? So I love the game. Of course, I love the game. I think the game is perfect. I know a lot of game designers say there's problems. I disagree 100%. I think the game is as it is. Like when I say perfect, I don't mean it's the right game for everybody all the time. That's impossible. But as a cultural artifact, if anything was different about Magic, I don't think it would have been okay, including the imbalance, including the problems. I think the problems were very important at the time. It was the first game. And I still remember when I played Magic, what I call the discovery journey, right? The game changed character so many times in 1 year for me. Discovering the trading card game, what that meant, discovering a game for which, like, as Richard Garfield said, like my understanding is different from your understanding. The investment of, I'm a little bit of a game designer inside this game. I craft an environment, you craft an environment. Let's see whose is better. So that's the machinery, right? And that I did like that. But the cultural, it was the first game I ever played where I learned what the difference is between a casual player, a tournament player, a hardcore player, a lifestyle player. And I also learned what intuitively, because we didn't have language for it, like the game that transformed itself naturally based on the type of feelings you want to get out of it. Are you a problem solver? Are you an emotional player? Are you a gambler? Are you a social player? Are you a diplomacy? And the game was just, without changing the rules, it just perfectly adapted. and it changed context. I also discovered tournaments through Magic where I was terrible. Of course I would. And the first time I went to a tournament, I remember it like it was yesterday. I brought my silly little deck that I built with my friends that was 150 cards, right? I brought it to these sleek, broken decks where somebody killed me on the first turn. I didn't even get a single turn. And I saw these cards, like, oh my God, what, like, they played a completely different game with the exact same components that I did. And I was humiliated. I was like, I couldn't, like, my emotions were so strong, but I didn't hate the game. It inspired me to go home and go, well, I have to figure out how to do this. And I don't think any game has ever matched that, because now games are more polished, they're more balanced. They fixed problems that needed to be fixed, but the time that Magic came out, like, there's an innocence about it that I think will never be recaptured.
And you mentioned balanced games, and do you like when it's not just it's not balanced? In fact,
Well, I think balance is an illusion completely. So because when people say balance, what they like, there's so like you always have to ask, well, what do you mean, right? Like, so what does balance mean? Does that mean regardless of your starting position, everybody has a chance to win? Sure, but that's not possible, right?
Yes,
and,
I completely agree with you.
And the extreme version of balance, like when I hear like, okay, no matter what you do, you must end up within 5 victory points of each other. That's bullshit. Like that means that the game plays you. You are not playing the game. And in fact, unfortunately, I don't do this with friends. But sometimes if I'm bored of a game and I can just see the machinery, I'm like, I'll just stop playing and I'll play random. Then because I just don't care anymore. I have no investment. I have no agency. I have no feeling. So to me, that's not balance. That's just over-designed, or it's a trap. It's a mouse trap or a puzzle rather than a game. I like games where, because real life is hard. Real life is harsh, and the consequences of your decisions are life-affecting. That's terrible.
Yes.
But in a game, you can model a lot of those same decisions, and the outcome has no stakes. You win or you lose. Who cares? It's a game. So you get that same emotion, you get that same feeling, but in a safe place.
Yes.
Right? I love games that are dangerous, right?
You can experiment things
you
by
can
playing.
Experiment. Right. The cost of failure is nothing. It's some emotion in the moment, right? I love that. There was a great saying, play is practice. Right? And I live by that.
What do you think about the economical aspect of Magic and speculation?
It's problematic and marvelous,
Yes.
right? Magic is a great metaphor for capitalism, which we understand is... So look, everybody who watches probably knows my politics, right? I don't like capitalism. I understand. But we live in this world. So Magic takes takes all the problems of such a system, brings it into a tiny ecosystem with lower stakes. I have a collection. There's some lessons you can learn from that. In my opinion, I taught my nephew Pokemon, and I taught him how to manage his collection a little bit. And I sent it out into the world, let him get ripped off, let him experience the trauma of everything that happens in that economy. It hurt, but it wasn't real life. The feelings were real, but the consequences were not. He will learn more from his Pokemon experience than he will ever learn in school, ever. I think that's incredibly valuable. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm sorry, I'm preaching now, but
No.
For all the problems it has, I would not fix any of them. Even understanding like the dark side of gaming, I wouldn't fix it in Magic. I think games that are inspired by Magic and do it worse or do it more exploitatively. And look, Magic has done some terrible things too. I won't defend those. But the basic lessons, the core lessons that you can get out of it, I think come from the problems, not from the polish, if that makes sense.
So that when you play Magic and you have to create your own deck, you are like a board game designer. Yes, it's a good way to first do creation.
Yes, well, so two things. So it's practice, but more importantly, because most people they like the idea of game design, but they don't necessarily. To do this professionally is a grind, right? Most of it is not fun for most people, but Magic takes all that out. Right, you feel the agency of expressing your will and expressing your creativity, and for most players, they want to stop there, and that's perfect. And the fact that Magic gives you a controlled environment and controlled rules to do that, rather than for us professionals, the wide open possibility space and the stakes. I love that. I love that. And like D&D does that as well, but it does it cooperatively. Magic introducing competition, like on many levels, I think intensifies not just the lessons, but the emotion of it as well.
Out of game time is also gaming time.
The metagame, yes. Exactly right. So D&D was the first game to introduce a metagame, but Magic, again, it's cooperative versus competitive, right? So yeah, exactly right. The metagame of, so Richard Garfield sold Magic the Gathering at first as the game that's bigger than the box. And I love that. That's so perfect, right? I try to do that with every game of mine, but none of my games will be as big as a game of Magic. So I like to be a little bit more controlled. But that was the game that immediately said to me, oh my God, it changed everything. Not only about games, but about the industry, about the hobby, the way I engage with the hobby, the way I engage with my friends in the hobby. It was, I mean, it almost is an understatement to call it a cultural artifact.
And there is also the fact that in Magic, you said emotions can be very strong, and it's a tempo board game. It means you have to feel your deck, I think, and you have to play the good card at the good time. And sometimes cards have a value, you know, it's not the same value just when you have to pay or when you play it. It depends. It changes everything. The good moment you play a card.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's not fair. It's not fair. You can buy a better deck. You can buy a better experience. And again, I think that's valuable in the context of a game. I don't like it in real life, but in a game where it's safer and the stakes are lower, I think that's great.
You design cards games.
Many.
Yes,
very many.
And do you think it's very difficult to create this combination? Do you think all the combos, or you say, okay, players have to discover them by themselves? And
so this will sound, well, it's going to sound how it sounds. It's not difficult for me, but the reason it's not for me because it's in my DNA. Like, so I've spent so much time in the ecosystem of card games. It's natural to me. Again, I will relate to music, right? I'm a guitarist. So if I'm learning a new instrument, even if it's like the guitar, okay, it's a little difficult. But if you give me a guitar, like I'll just pick it up. Like I think in guitar. So it's always difficult to finish a collectible card game. But I have ideas for card games all the time. I have a very good I have a good idea of what it will feel like because I'm a very full stack designer. I like to think all the way through. But yeah, exactly. Like I want players to discover it. I want to make sure I don't see everything. And I work with other creative people. So I'm very collaborative in a large group. I do believe, for most people, of course, it's impossible. I do think collectible card game designing one is both insane and impossible. But I mean, that's kind of the appeal to me.
Do you still play Magic today?
Not anymore. I mean, it's only because I can't keep up. My wife just got into Magic a few years ago, so I got to rediscover it again. But she was picking up modern sets, and I find the modern sets are too complicated. They're too complicated and too grindy. I would like to go back to like older sets when the game was a little bit more innocent and problematic. I still follow it. I know what new sets are out, and I like exploring it from a distance. But if you pulled out a deck right now and said, like, you want to play? I would say, sure, of course. And I would remember everything.
You said that it was more than a board game, but it's also a cultural symbol or something.
It's an artifact, yeah.
Yes, an artifact. And representations in the cards are very important. And
very much so,
lots of evolution. What do you think about this evolution and the representation? And because it's just a card game, but representation have a meaning. In fact,
100%.
Choice. I think about the Lord of the Rings set with all the discussions about the representations. So it's out of just not board games. There are real impacts in real life.
Absolutely. When I say it's a cultural artifact, it's also a philosophy. It's also a school, like a school of thought. So I do think trading card games might have existed without Richard Garfield, but the way he thought about it, he came at it as a mathematician, but he also came at it as a philosophy major, and he was he came at it with childlike curiosity. I think that a more disciplined, maybe discipline's the wrong word. I think a more technical designer would have not made a game like this. They would have made a game that's a little more polished or a little more modern, and may not have caught on. The problems are I keep coming back to this. The quote unquote, I'm making air quotes here. The problems are important. They're as important, and the mistakes are as important as the successes. So the other thing is, Magic, when people think of the theme of Magic, like you think it's kind of dumb. And I think that's very important. It's iconic. They didn't go too deep. They didn't try to tell too much of a story. It was very important that the game resonated. So when I played Giant Growth, the card is called Giant Growth. I played on a creature. You don't read the text. You already know, he played Giant Growth. Yeah, I played Lightning Bolt. You know what that does. You instantly, you have to read the text to know exactly what it does, but the feeling is deep in your bones. Lord of the Rings, of course, I mean, it's based on a book series we all know, but the original theme of Magic is important. I know that like Wizards has done a backstory, like with planeswalkers and blah, 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 blah. It's fine. I think that's fine, but not necessary. When I explain a game to somebody who's never played before, you're a wizard, you summon creatures, you attack your opponent and try to kill them. That's it. And everything draws from that. And you understand it's not a narrative, it's a vibe, it's a feeling. And the fact that it's so iconic and the fact that everything comes from it doesn't model it, but it comes from a pre-existing understanding is extremely important.
So we are going to talk about the next.
Sure, I could talk forever about Magic, but that's okay.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft.
Yes, it's the board game. You played the video games?
Yeah. So when I said World of Warcraft, that's the game I was talking about. The video game.
Yes. Because there are also board games,
which I worked on. Yes.
Yes. So video games are also very important in your life?
Yes, I've been playing video games since I was a kid.
Okay.
And World of Warcraft, so I've been playing MMORPGs since Meridian 59. So I'm an old school player. I played that. I played Ultima Online, EverQuest. I followed the entire evolution. World of Warcraft is special to me because it wasn't the first, but it is most players' first. It was the first game that was designed specifically to be broad and not, because all these other games, they were all quote unquote interesting and they were clever. They were the game designers trying to model a real world environment, which is not the fun. World of Warcraft was the first game to say, forget that, no modeling. We're going to control it. We're going to give you quests. We're going to make a good single player experience. It doesn't matter that it's not realistic in any way whatsoever. It doesn't matter that you can't have an impact on the world. That's not the reason. That's not why people play these games. They want to do something cool and they want to show off to their friends. So the guardrails that were built around World of Warcraft was what got me right away. I would never teach, if I was bringing a friend into MMOs, I would never teach them the original games. I would start with World of Warcraft and go past that. And also, it's iconic. It's like Magic.
Yes.
It's iconic and it's juvenile. I think that's very important. Like when you see like the Tauren shaman, every 10-year-old boy looks at that and goes like, oh my God, the big horns and the hoofs and the nose ring. It's awesome. When you see the cute little gnome, the gnome wizard, like there's a princess fantasy in there but the cool thing is I didn't understand this back in the day, but even though World of Warcraft, like Blizzard games are kind of for quote unquote for boys, the World of Warcraft is oddly not so gendered. Like there's a masculine and a feminine identities sort of, but throughout everything. So there's no reason, like when I see a female character in World of Warcraft, I do not assume it's a woman. You can funnel your fantasies through there because it's so I don't know how to describe it. It's so equitable. They didn't care about trying to make games for themselves as much. They tried to making games for their kids or for the kid inside you. Anyway, sorry, I'm preaching again. But I love that. And I think I'm not sure if it was intentional, but I loved that I would teach my niece or I would teach my nephew, no problem. And I think they would all they could play the same character. I think they would both enjoy it. And anyway, finally, World of Warcraft is when like you talk to game designers, they're like, but they didn't do anything new. I say, no, bullshit. They Polish is that game. They polish and polish and polish, not to make the gameplay too safe, but to make the gameplay perfect. I'll give you an example. Like, it's little things. It's, when you play the game, you just hit things, right? So you hit things, you see little numbers come up. Oh, I did 5 damage. 5 damage pops up, and the fact that it pops up and it disappears when it gets to it floats up like a cloud. When you critical hit, it pops up and it explodes into 3 times the size, and then it goes back up. Right, and it makes an extra special sound. That's important. It's extremely important, because when you think about, like, when you're hitting things, like numbers, like oh my God, the big numbers, it's great. The fact that they use white numbers for regular attacks, yellow numbers for special attacks, so you can see the results of all this building you did. Oh, that's a power. That's a power. And how they appear. I can dwell on this forever, but UX design is so important, and I feel very strongly about that, because I feel strongly about, like, card design, board design, the visuals of it, how it presents itself to you, the feedback that it gives you. World of Warcraft innovated all of that. When you play any game nowadays, no matter even whether it's World of Warcraft or not, if you're in a world and you walk up to a character and they have a question mark above their head, you're like, oh, you just know? I go there. World of Warcraft invented that. Thin air. No game did that before. When it transforms from a question mark into an exclamation mark, you like, oh, I can go turn in a quest. They invented that and that's polish. But it's those tiny mechanics take very complex ideas and they make them instantly understandable. And that's so important. It does a service not just to the players who play the game, but to people who just start exploring it. And now that's free for the rest of us. We can build upon that. And like, I'm sorry, I'm lost in my own thoughts here, but like, it's very important to me that, because World of Warcraft is a very complex game, but it presents as so simple, and it lets you explore and explore and explore and go as deep as you want, go as hardcore as you want, go as social as you want, go as single player as you want, go as multiplayer as you want. But the journey is so well done and dangerous. Like, it's not just safe. Anyway, sorry, I love that game.
It's a game with a very, very strong world universe.
That's right.
I think you told that thematics were very important for you.
Yes.
Your board games, the thematics you choose, we can really feel a very strong world, and you also work on board games for license, like Warhammer for
yeah, absolutely.
Thematics are very first in
yes. Now when I say theme, this is one of the areas I'm a little pretentious. When I say theme, I don't mean the coat of paint.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
I mean the theme. Like, when you think about cinema, when you think about music, like, what emotion is this bringing up? So I'll use Rising Sun as an example. The theme of Rising Sun is Japanese mythology. Well, sorry, that's right. The coat of paint is Japanese mythology. I grew up reading about that, but the theme is gentleman diplomacy. You are generals making very difficult decisions, harsh decisions. You are engaged in brutal warfare and combat, but you are bound by a sense of propriety, etiquette, and respectability. That's everything about that. So even though you are making decisions, which is probably why you found it so tense, you're doing these brutal interactions, but it's controlled, it's contained, and it's polite. That's very, very important. So yes, it was important to me that when I designed the mechanisms, I wasn't free to do whatever I want. I had to make sure that your feeling was that. So everything about the game had to be a hook for you to invite other players to the table. Betrayal was the core of that game, and was designed so that I will make an alliance with you, and we are going to break up because the game rewards us for breaking up. So the feeling would be like, you'll say, all right, well, let's agree right now. Or I'd say, I'm going to betray you right now. We're going to break up. And because, it's kind of run its course. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, sure, why not? And I'll kill you tomorrow. Right? There's a cartoon reference that I loved. Do you remember the Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny? So there's a cartoon inside there that which was one of my inspirations. The Wile E. Coyote and the sheepdog. I don't remember his name. There was a little thing they always did where there was a vignette they did where they were both workers that would go in to guard sheep. And they would come into he would come in a war catch, like, good morning, Sam. Good morning, Ralph, they would say. And then for the rest of the day, they'd shake each other's hand, they'd be polite. And then the whole rest of that bit, the coyote's trying to eat the sheep, and the sheepdog is stopping him. And it's brutal. Like he's throwing him to vats of acid, throwing him off a cliff. At the end of it, when it was done, they ended the bit saying, all right, end of the day, the whistle would blow. Good night, Sam. Good night, Ralph. Very polite. That was very, to me, that was the monologue running through my head. I wanted that feeling.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. It was the aim you have when you create the board game, and then you design everything around.
That's exactly right.
To achieve this goal.
That's exactly
feelings.
right.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. The mechanisms are like, it's fine that it's clever, but if it doesn't achieve that goal, it's out.
And about video games, you also work on other license IP like Bloodborne. You played the video game?
A little bit. A little bit.
Hard.
So I played it. So Bloodborne, interesting. So that's why I took a co-designer, Michael Chanel, who's expert. I played it. So I love the idea of Bloodborne very, very much. And I read about it and I watch people play. I love watching people play Bloodborne. I don't enjoy it myself, but I love the idea of the game is a scientific method. Yeah. Like you have to like, yes, you are fighting monsters, but really what you're doing is you're figuring out the patterns by killing yourself, dying, going back, figuring out something, dying, which is why we built the game that way as a deck building game, which is the same learning curve. With that game, I designed the mechanics and the chassis. Michael, my partner, he played the game forever, so he made sure that all of the situations were high fidelity. But yeah, that was a good partnership. I just wanted to make sure the top line was a board game answer to the same feeling that the video game gives you.
We are going to talk about the last board game, El Grande.
El Grande, yes.
Yes, very well-known board games from Wolfgang Kramer and Richard Ulrich.
My hero, yep.
Yes, most of them one of the board game we think about when we talk about majority area, area control.
That's right. That's so the genius I could talk forever about. So Wolfgang Kramer is my hero. Like I'm trying not to be silly and too humble, but like honestly, I feel like my career is just redesigning Wolfgang Kramer's games. He was a pioneer and like he invented the machinery. So El Grande, just like Yahtzee, is about the machinery. The idea that until El Grande, when you thought about area games, it was always risk, it was always diplomacy. Yes. The mechanics of putting people down, that's fine. Like but then we're going to fight and see who controls it. El Grande was based on just a brand new feeling. The idea of, well, wait a minute. Do I want this territory? How much am I willing to pay for it? And because it abstracted out the combat, it was all about, essentially all about like just game theory all over a table, right? You have Prisoner's Dilemma. You have Tragedy of the Commons that exists all at the same time. I don't think about the theme at all in El Grande. Like it could be anything, but the feeling was so unique and so new. And it was one of the games I played. When I saw the box, I was like, oh God, this looks complicated. Like, I'm not going to like this. And then I played it. And again, I dreamt about it. I could not stop thinking about it. And I realized it was the machinery. So I played it over and over and over again. And one of the reasons why my games have El Grande in there was because
many of your board games have this aspect of
absolutely
of area majority.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
and so like I felt like that was the best machinery I've ever seen. So I'm like, oh, so just like when I said World of Warcraft invented the question mark for quests and stuff, I'm like, I don't have to invent that. I can start there now.
Yeah, okay.
And so and I loved I just wanted to take it further, right? I wanted to make the heavy metal version of Led Zeppelin's Classic, right? So like a game like Blood Rage, right?
Yes.
So I never thought like, oh, okay, it's El Grande plus draft. I don't think like that. I don't even think about El Grande, but it's because I know it's in there.
Yes.
He solved those problems. So now I can go, when I make area majority games, what I wanted, especially with that series, I wanted to answer a new question instead of going, so I got to take it back to risk. Right? When risk is like the dramatic question is always, all right, how am I going to win these territories? Right? In Blood Rage, it's wait, do I want to win this territory? Why? Do they want to win this territory? And why? Are they actually trying to lose? Should I stop them from losing? So it's just new questions. And so using the idea of area majority and using victory points instead of just win X number of territories, you got to tell kind of new stories from that. And I owe all that to El Grande. Like without El Grande, there's no any of my big board games. I would have to invent that myself, and I may not have done it as well.
You still play El Grande?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So I will say it has aged a little bit. Now, personally, like I mean, no offense to Wolfgang, but I prefer Blood Rage because it's closer to me.
Yes,
I feel the connection to the theme a little bit more. I do think, objectively, El Grande is a better game. It's better than any game I've ever made. It's more pure. It's a better piece of machinery. But I like my games as products overall. I like them better.
If you're okay, we can talk about Cthulhu Death Medaille because I said it's one of my favorite board games, and I really love it because I think it's very streamlined, which is very rare in this type of board games. And I read that you develop the board games during the first Trump administration, and you said that there was something common in the fact to say, okay, we can kill Cthulhu, and maybe there is a hope we can be stronger, and we can do something. And there is this political inspiration. Also, the movie of Quentin Tarantino, Inglourious Basterds.
Inglourious Basterds, that's right.
And if you're okay, I would like to talk with you about this fact that we can include politics in board games.
Sure.
Yes, that it's not obvious for all the time, but sometimes it's something that we can feel in it.
100%, yeah. I mean, look, so what you just described, like I will tell you, so Death May Die, I mean, it's a game I'm insanely proud of. I love the final result, and I also enjoyed making it. Rob, my co-designer, and we had so let me tell you about the pitch, right, where it started. Rob is a legacy game developer, and he was known for that. And I've known Rob for years. So I said to, I thought, I want to make a game with him because we think about story very similar. We're both writers and we both think about film and cinema in a very similar way. So I was like, all right, I'm sure he's sick of legacy games. So I just like, what if he just wants to make a good game? I love telling this story because I don't think it's very common. Simon has, Zombicide, right?
Yes.
So I was visiting Simon's office one day before I worked there. And I was like, they showed me like a list of games that were coming out. And it was just, somebody just did an exercise and they just wrote a bunch of things like Zombicide, Xenocide, which became something else. I looked at some of those like, oh my God, some of these are cool. And then somebody just wrote Cthulhu-cide. I was like, Cthulhu-cide? That's cool. I was like, what is that? And they're like, I don't know. I just wrote stuff down.
Okay.
And I couldn't stop thinking about it because I'm a big fan of the Cthulhu mythos besides Lovecraft. I love that space. And so immediately I was like, well, take that off. I'm making that game.
Okay.
Just because I couldn't stop thinking about like, yes, the game where, so I had just watched Inglourious Basterds.
Yes.
And I'm sorry for the spoiler, but I mean, come on, it's been years. The thing that's like, I think it was a good movie, but the thing that struck me was the ending of that movie, right? Because when you watch the movie, you're like, all right, it's a tragedy, right? Because you know sort of the story. So like, all right, so it's going to be insanely violent, and they're going to fail to kill Hitler because that's the thing. But at the end, they fucking kill Hitler. I was like, what? Amazing! And there was another story, and I apologize because I'm not going to remember the name of it. There's a story, a mythic story about a samurai who, in his dream, said at one point he was very upset with the injustice of the universe, and they said like, well, I'm sorry, that's up to God. That's fine, I'm going to kill God. And they're like, I'm going to make it my life's quest. And they're like, all right, it's metaphorical, whatever. But at the end of it, he goes and kills God. That's it. I was like, that's amazing. Like, so the shock of that, I was like, I want to take that, I want to make that the only way to win a Cthulhu game. You must kill Cthulhu. And so what does that mean? So I called Rob and I said, do you want to make a game about shooting Cthulhu in the face? He said, yes, I do. And Rob's an amazing storyteller. And so we got together and we talked about this thematically. I was a little bit more politically inclined. Rob and I are very similar, but he's exhausted by politics. So I wasn't aiming to make a political game, to your point, but I was in like the idea of making a piece of art that is complementary to the time that it's in. Right? We were in an era of despair, of hopelessness, of, we woke up every day like, COVID hadn't hit yet, but we could feel it. Something is coming and it's going to be terrible. So I wanted to make the piece of, I want to give that visual representation, right? What is it like to just go, fuck it, I kill it. I can just shoot it. So yeah, that it did inform a lot of the design. Now, without telling you that story,
yes,
like somebody who just opens a box isn't going to go, oh my God, this is a political game.
Exactly.
But without the context of what was happening around us, the game would not have come out like that.
Taking into account the international situation and international political situation, do you think that board games can have something to do to resist to this or not?
It's a great question. My answer still changes very often. So
I don't mean making very engaged board games, but sometimes it's just the feelings you can make feel to people, and it's something that's more subtle, in fact.
Yeah, yes. So my board games are informed by my politics. They just are. But ironically, they're not. So when you play my games, you're not going to go, oh, cool, this is a game of leftist socialism inside a capitalist hellhole. No, like they're not made like that. But the idea that, I love the dark Lord of the Rings mythos, right? Like out of the greatest darkness come the greatest heroes. And I love the idea that, so resistance through empowerment is a big thing for me, right? So there's a statement, I don't remember who said it, but clean the hearth before you leave the home, right? You must take care of yourself. You must give joy to yourself. So to me, especially today, I mean, we're having this interview in the year of our Lord 2025 and some of the darkest periods in the world. I do think that giving a very directed kind of joy and hopefulness, absolutely, it's resistance to me, right? Because it strengthens the muscle, right? And the idea, I love the idea, this is part of my, it's my politics, but it's mostly like, my politics affects the way I design machinery. I like making very complicated games that are accessible and streamlined. So to demystify the idea that if you play something complicated, there is a solution, right? There's an eyes on the prize. So when you feel helpless in today's very complex world with bad actors using the complexity of our world to hide that, right? I mean, I'm talking about billionaires, right? Like the being able to play a game and go like, oh my God, I can play this subconsciously. Yeah, you will understand. Like I can play a game of Cthulhu, read a 25-page rule book, but really I'll just I understand that all I got to do is I got to maximize my stats. I got to and I have to get them at the right time. I have to time myself, stop the ritual first, then I got to kill the bad guy. And the fact the game allows you to kill the bad guy, it gives you a catharsis that it's just not possible in real life. Now, look, I'm not going to make resistance fighters out of everybody playing Death May Die, but I have had conversations with political science students, of which I am one, go like, you've demystified a lot of very complex ideas. Yeah, I love that. I only do it with allegory. I'm not personally capable, I think, of making a true direct game like Votes for Women, which is unbelievably inspired game. I would never be able to make a game like that. It's somehow play is too important to me and catharsis is a little bit too important to me. I need to divorce myself from reality one step. That's personal. I wouldn't be able to do that, but I definitely believe I would like the designer of Votes for Women had played some of my stuff and it's I love the way you think about games. So just being able to inspire others who might want to do it directly is good. That's good enough for me.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Et on remercie tous les auditeurs et auditrices qui ont suivi le podcast. Et à bientôt. Au revoir, Eric. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
À plus.
À plus.
This interview has been recorded in Cannes on March 1st, 2025 and is produced by Paul Gara and Hammer. This podcast is completely independent. Its contents are free and not sponsored. Follow Paul Gara on Facebook, X, Blue Sky and Instagram. Thank you for listening to Le Point de Paul Gara and until next time for a new episode.